So for 2.5 months, we've been following the guidance of our poem from Pastor Steve Garnis Holmes. And if you would like to get a poem from him every day, it's very easy to go to his website called unfoldinglight.net and to sign up to get his poems. And the guidance he has been given us is that in troubled times, it takes great concentration to align ourselves with grace rather than force, with love rather than fear. We begin by allowing ourselves to be loved, along with the rest of all creation. And then we fall into that love and let that love flow through us into all the world. So this session is going to be an introspective session. It's one in which I'll be asking some questions that I invite us to explore. And I'll be giving us a little bit of time to explore it. And we won't be answering questions aloud in the session, but just to listen to your deep heart. So as we listen to these words once again, I want you to be thinking about, for your own self, how has it gone over these past 9 or 10 weeks? If you recall, we began this the week after the election, all the way back in November. So as you listen to these words, just pondering, how has it gone for you? In troubled times, it takes great concentration to align ourselves with grace rather than force, with love rather than fear. We begin by allowing ourselves to be loved, along with all the rest of creation. And then we fall into that love and let that love flow through us into the world. So how has the experience of love changed for you in the past 2.5 months? Have you been able to allow yourself to be loved? When we do the practice of allowing love to flow in, can you feel it touch you and affect you? During our time of practice together, have you been able to sense or imagine that all creation is loved, and all creation is loved, and even that all creation is love? And this next one is actually, I've gotten a fair amount of feedback about this one. Can you sense less fear in yourself? Can you sense less need to control or force? And then as we sat here today on January 16th, as we look into 2025 stretching in front of us, can we feel interested maybe in terms of how this year might be one in which we're able to feel and experience connection rather than separation? So just ask yourself that. How much hope do you have that this may be a year of connecting? So this coming Monday, we have an official holiday in which we celebrate a great, great man, a man that has loomed extremely large in the history of this country, and someone who I believe changed things as much as George Washington or even Abraham Lincoln. And I'm talking about the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And some of you who are in small groups with me know that the word that arose for me for 2025 is the word warrior. And I didn't choose that word because I feel like a warrior or because I like that word. I don't like that word. And that's probably another synchronicity where I know it's my word and I really, really wish it wasn't my word. Um, my ego wants to be a lover, not a fighter. But warrior is the word for the year. And already in this year, I can feel myself growing into it, especially again through synchronicity, as Dr. King has come front and center to my awareness. Here is a man and an example who, without a doubt, went to battle for the sake of justice, equality, to eradicate racism and many other social ills, poverty, just and general concern for his fellow human being. Yet he never raised a weapon or even a fist. He actually changed the world through brilliance, community, goodness, and his guiding light was love. Dr. King was a true warrior of love and someone that I am excited to attempt to model myself after in terms of warrior energy. So I'm not going to talk a lot in this session today. I'm mostly going to quote Dr. King. And I'll begin with one of the quotes that I shared on Sunday, in which he says, "We have made of this world a neighborhood, and yet we have not made of it a brotherhood. Somehow and in some way, we have got to do this. We must all learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will all perish together as fools. We are tied together in the single garment of destiny, caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. For some strange reason, I can never be who I ought to be until you are who you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the way the universe is made. This is the way it is structured. Again, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. So, what do you think? Do you believe that is true? Sounds great. Sounds very lovey-dovey. But do you believe it, or even have a part of you that believes it? Not just wants to believe it, but that believes it. Do you believe that the person you abhor can't be who they need to be until you are who you need to be? Can we lead with the idea that it's not they who need to change first, but that it's our responsibility to change ourselves? And what about that question, who you need to be? As I look around this room, I see some really good people. But have any of us arrived? Are we fully who we need to be for this world? Here's a question. How might your enemy help you become who you need to be? How might your enemy help you become who you need to be? And what about this inescapable network of mutuality? Kind of imagine that as this giant web, everything depending on everything else. Where do you see yourself in that network? Where and how do you see your enemies in that network? So I'm aware that this whole season of love has been leading to a very particular phrase that I've touched on before with Dr. King, but am returning in a fully heartful manner, returning to. He uses it in this next quote, and I'll emphasize it. He's talking about what the goal is. The end is reconciliation. The end is redemption. The end is the creation of the beloved community. The end is the creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opposers into friends. Type of love that I stress here is not eros, a sort of aesthetic or romantic love. We don't have to like that other person or think they're great. It's not philia, a sort of reciprocal love between personal friends, but it is agape, which is understanding goodwill for all people. Goodwill for all people. It is an overflowing love which seeks nothing in return. It is this kind of love that may well be the salvation of our civilization. This kind of love that may well be the salvation of our civilization. And lastly, this one. Our goal is to create a beloved community. And this will require a qualitative change in our souls as well as a quantitative change in our lives. So, what is this beloved community? What might it look like? Who does it include? Who does it exclude? Who are you willing to allow in? Who's welcome or not welcome? I don't know what it might look like, but I know that I'm on a journey to find out. And I will be inviting you all to explore that with me as we journey through 2025. So, as we head into our practice today, just a little bit of a heads up. At the end of the practice, I will be offering an invitation, so I won't just be signing off. So, I just don't want you to be surprised. I will transition us gently into that space. So, I invite us to now practice together. I invite us to all take a deep breath in. And as we let that breath out, letting that breath drop us down into this moment, feeling this now, feeling ourselves here. And then taking in another breath and imagining that we are breathing in love, filling our beings with love. And as we let this breath out, letting it drop us down into an ocean of love. And we begin to become one with love. This is the place from which we begin our practice. So I invite you now to drop into your own experience, noticing how in this deep love, you still hear things. There's still aromas and sights. What is it like to experience these things in love? As you notice and experience, silently name it to yourself. Knowing and naming our experience helps us to begin to step into presence. And we deepen that by grounding in our body. So we attend to our body as we allow love to flow in and to fill our feet and our lower legs. And our upper legs. And our hips. We let love flow into and fill our bellies. Letting love bathe all the organs of the belly. We let love flow into our chest and our beating heart. Our shoulders, our arms, and our hands. We let love flow into our tailbone and let that love flow up the spine, sending out love into the muscles, the rib cage, through the neck, the scalp, and the head. And now letting love rest on your face. Now feeling yourself as one whole physical being. Feel the way it is completely filled with love from toe to the top of your head. And the way your body is here now. This is your physical presence. Now turning to the emotional, spiritual part of ourselves, allowing love to fill our feeling organ, our heart. And don't imagine that your heart is some finite volume. Just begin to let love flow in and see what happens to your heart. Letting love flow into your spirit, your aliveness, your flow, your spiritual energy. Noticing what happens when love interacts with your spirit. And then letting love flow into your mind. Imagining, recognizing that love is greater than any thought that we can have. And letting love flow in and expand the mind. Now feeling yourself as one whole being, body, heart, spirit, mind. All filled with love here now. And then let your being expand out into the world. Not so that you can love the world, but so that you can be one with the world in love. See if you can feel and sense the difference. See if you can notice the way separation falls away when we stop trying to love the world and instead are one with the world in love. And then feel the way that the earth is holding you, holding us, holding all things. We are not doing the work. It is being done for us. And so we relax into the flow of both the holding of gravity and the holding of love. As we look towards 2025, are you willing to wage love in this coming year? How might you love your enemy? How might we even stop putting people in categories of friend and enemy? Listen deeply for a moment. If you're listening on this recording, I invite you to pause the recording and to write down what you will commit to in this year in terms of love. And once you've determined that, once you've written that down, I strongly encourage you to tell someone what you've committed to. If you don't know who you can tell, then leave a comment on my YouTube channel. This has been a beautiful journey for me this season of love. I so thank you for practicing with me, supporting my own practice. I love you all. So, as I said before, I'm feeling deeply drawn into beloved community, not just as a concept, some ethereal idea, but as a true community of people who are committed to practicing towards fully loving and their own transformation of the world. And some of you are already a part of a community like that in our transformational listening communities. So I'm going to be inviting more of us to be joining those communities, but also inviting you to continue in these sessions. And in the coming months and weeks, we will be focusing on becoming the beloved community, supported by one another in this practice, and with the goal of impacting the whole world with love, but also with nonviolent action. Love will always lead to a loving action in the world. Thank you. Stay tuned. I'll be gone for a few weeks, and then I'll be back in touch. Love you all.